Hey guys, welcome to Overcrest. I'm Chris. We have a great episode for you guys today. Steve Pelletier is coming on the podcast to talk about the rally and much more. And I've always known of Steve. We haven't hung out a lot, just a little bit at the rally in Oregon and then quite a bit more on the rally in Utah here. And he reached out to me after the rally. I'd kind of put the call out to see if anybody wanted to come on and tell their story. And I was honestly, guys, overwhelmed by the amount of people that wanted to do this. And I'll have some more people on for sure. And I was specifically touched by a post that he made, and we get into it a little bit in the episode, and I don't want to spoil it, but it was really, it really touched me, and I really felt it. And so I wanted to have him on to talk about his rally story and a little bit about his past. And I knew a little bit about Steve, that he was, my buddy Jeff, who loves sneakers, is like, oh man, Steve's an absolute legend. And I'm like, yeah, Sure. And I'm not really a sneaker guy. I like shoes. I got my Chuck Taylors. I got like 75 pairs of things in a myriad of different colors. Got married in Chuck Taylors. But I'm not really in the sneaker game. But when someone is as passionate about something as Steve is about telling stories, it doesn't matter what it is that they're doing. It's interesting to me. And I had no clue that Steve was as much of a legend in this world as he is. And I feel honored to be able to talk to him about this stuff, and that he shared as much as he did with his stories and his mind and everything behind what he did to create some of the most legendary Nikes of all time. Here's my interview with Steve Pelletier.
Yo, man, how's it going?
Not bad, man. How are you?
Very good. It's my pleasure to have you come hang out with us after a multi-day kick-your-ass rally that we got to do.
Dude, unreal. I'm still going through withdrawals, as they say. It's pretty hard not to be when you do something that cool and then you go back home and live your normal life again.
I joke around about the PRB, the post-rally blues, but
it's a real thing.
It's a real thing. How did it hit you? What are you feeling?
So for me, I don't know, how many of the listeners saw a post that I made when I got back, but that shit was the realest shit I ever wrote. And I don't really share that deeply that much, especially on Instagram. But the rally for me really was special, and it was special for a few reasons. First of all, it's like the people, right? Like that you get to meet and get to hang out, but all these people have a special bond, and the bond is driving and cars, and we all love that. And for me, I really believe cars saved my life, and it's a podcast you've done and you've talked about it. And I really believe that because I used to snowboard like all the time. Like, I'm not talking like I love snowboarding. I mean, like I live snowboarding to a level that most people don't get to live it. I used to make snowboard boots for a living, and I would snowboard 150 days a year. No joke.
Where were you doing this? Where were you snowboarding?
I started out on the East Coast. I grew up in Maine and went to school in Vermont and ended up working at Burton Snowboards. That was my first dream in life, was to work at Burton Snowboards.
I'm imagining you as like a skinny young Steve with like some wax just in a shop, being like, dude, yes, sir, coming right up. Like, what was that?
That's kind of where. That's kind of where it starts, right? Is you find your way into an industry that you love, because you want to spend your life doing the things you love to do. And, for me, like, we can get into it. Snowboarding and cars were the things, but
yeah.
With the snowboard thing, I started out at Burton Snowboards, actually working second shift at the snowboard factory in Vermont, screen printing snowboard graphics, because I was an art kid and I used to screen print T-shirts in high school. So,
yep.
I
What's
used to
that
work.
process like? What's like the process of screen printing a snowboard?
It's just like screen printing a T-shirt, but you've got a big machine that you're doing on because you're printing in like big, long graphics. But, by and large, it's the same. You're mixing up ink batches to match colors. You're screening boards. And I used to work
I had no idea it was that bespoke. Like, I thought it was just like some machine would come by and go, "Meh," and then that was it.
They have digital printing now, but, this is the late 90s. So, digital printing wasn't really a thing yet. And digital printing, I think, still costs more. So a lot of snowboard companies still hand screen stuff. You get a certain look that way too, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I worked 3 to 12:30 at night to put myself through college up there in Vermont. And it was awesome. I mean, I was in the snowboard industry. It was like my first job. But I had a few other jobs there, but I ended up making snowboard boots there and testing products. So I had to go out.
How did you end up making boots? I mean, that's kind of, you go from like, hey, I want to do some snowboard thing, and all of a sudden you're making boots. Like, how does a guy be like the boot guy? How do you end up as the?
Well, I mean, fate maybe a little bit, because I always loved sneakers and I was into it. I was an early sneakerhead. Back when people used to make fun of you for that shit. Like, it wasn't always a thing that everybody did. But really, how it happened was, at the time I was like third key manager at the Burton flagship store. Just one of my jobs on the chain there. And I was testing snowboard boots at the time and other product bindings and boards, outerwear, just because, like, it's a small company. You meet the people that are making it and they trust you to go out there on the mountain and give them some feedback. At the same time, because I was at the store and I was like, oh man, like, how do I get noticed? Like, because everybody wants these jobs. They're dream jobs, really.
Right.
I started customizing sneakers. And I customized sneakers under a name that's kind of funny, but I customized them under a name called Poop Star, right? I was Poop Star for a while.
Nice, man. Poop Star.
And I got my sneakers into Sneaker Pimp's traveling art sneaker show. And Gravis, who was owned by Burton at the time, footwear, used to give me sneakers to customize.
What is this process? Tell me. I want to dig into this a little bit, because this is all very unfamiliar to me. I only have, I wear pretty much only Chuck Taylors, and I have a couple of Sperry's because I used to like boats, and now I don't have any boats anymore, but I still have the shoes. They're
back in style, dude. You're trending this summer.
I know. I'm all set. I mean, mine are trash, dude. Look at these things. This is a Sperry Gold Cup. Look at this fucking shoe, dude. This thing is shot.
We need Dion from Concepts to send you a new pair. They just came out with a collection.
So you came up with this thing, Poop Star. First of all, where did Poop Star come from? What is that name? And B, what is the process of customizing sneakers like? Like, what is that? Explain this world to me.
So Poop Star was just me being stupid. I like stupid stuff. I try not to take myself too seriously. I think a lot of people in the world take themselves too seriously. I just want to have fun and put a smile on people's faces. So yeah, Poop Star, dude. Like, it didn't actually mean anything except for me. I probably got stoned and chuckled and thought it was funny, so I did it. And that's still the way my life works a lot of the time. So anyways, customizing sneakers though, you got to start with an idea. Like, really what I was doing at the time, I mean, I've always loved natural materials. I was like stripping shoes down and painting wood grain on them was like my thing. That's what I really liked to do at the time.
So different type. You're just
by hand, like literally painting wood grain by hand. It's meticulous work, and that's why I still don't do shit like that. Is because, like, once you do it a few times, you're like, okay, I've done that, But it was fun when I was doing it. You take paint thinner to a top layer of leather, you get the PU coating off that leather, and then you're painting acrylic on top. And, spray painting it with some matte spray paint, clear, just to protect it a little.
Is this something you actually wear? Or is it something that you do it and the guy just like, man, check these Poop Star shoes out. I'm going to put them on the shelf. Like, what is the...
I think some friends I gave them to wore them at the time. Sometimes I would just do colorways for my friends. It wasn't like a paint, like a wood grain. It was just like, hey, can you make these red? I was like, yeah, I can make those red. No problem, But... I would say that, when you customize shoes like that, they don't always last a huge long time because, like, the paint cracks or whatever. But, it was fun. It's just more just like do it. You know what I mean? Have fun, have something different, talk about it with your homies, joke around,
FCP Euro is an online retailer of OE, OEM, genuine aftermarket, and performance parts for European cars. From BMW to Porsche, Volvo, and more, their catalog is a one-stop shop with over 275,000 unique products, including expert assembled kits to make shopping simpler. Actively building out the Volkswagen, Audi, and Porsche catalogs from current to our favorite classics, including the Mark I Scirocco freeride car. They are working to have every part you need for all of your cars. Plus, every product they sell is backed by a lifetime replacement guarantee. Even wear items like wiper blades, brake pads, and oil filters, lifetime warranty. With the opening of their distribution center in Mesa, Arizona, FCP Euro is now shipping parts from both coasts, serving most of the country in 3 days or less with free shipping. We at Overcrest have been working with FCP Euro for years and can vouch for them. They are real people who are passionate about what they do and the cars we love, while making sure to put you, the customer, first. Check them out today at fcpeuro.com and take advantage of free shipping on any order over $49. CSF Cooling has always been at the forefront of quality products for a fair price. With a rich history stretching over 7 decades, they provide the best high-performance and OEM Plus cooling systems on the market today. CSF offers over 3,000 different cooling applications for the most popular makes and models on the road today. From classic copper brass radiators for Land Cruisers, Jeeps, and Datsuns, to vintage 80s Mercedes, BMW, and Audi and Porsche platforms, all the way up to new vehicles. Check out their expanding Classic Series lineup, and be sure to check them out at csfrace.com or on social media.
One of the real interesting parts about, snowboarding versus sneakers, and we could talk about what the differences are, because I got both of those experiences pretty heavy in my life. But when you're making snowboard boots, what you're making them for is the average consumer might use that boot 5 times in a season. You know what I mean? It's expensive to go snowboarding. People can only go a certain amount of time, but then you have to make them so that somebody who buys a season's pass and goes 100 days a year, that boot still works at the end of the season. So it's that shit has to last, and you got to put hours on it to know it will last. So snowboard companies like that, if they're doing it right, they're testing a product, same as a car company might test a product inside and out, have thousands and thousands and thousands of hours on it. If they're not doing that, they're not doing their job to make sure that product is right, or the right thing for the consumer, But yeah, it's product development. I'm still doing it, it's fun. I started, that sneaker customizing thing. It got in some sneaker shows. Gravis at the time was Burton's sneaker company. It was kind of a big deal in the late 90s, early 2000s. You know what I mean? There were cool shoes to have.
Okay.
Maybe not as widespread as skate shoes were at the time, but they were kind of quasi skate shoes, almost like simples, almost like some other things. And then they turned into something totally different. But during this time, I'm living in Vermont. It's cool. It's a small country place. It's kind of comfortable for me. And Burton was like, "Hey, do you want to move to LA and work for Gravis?" And I was like, "No, I do not want to move to Los Angeles. I just don't. I still to this day don't see myself in Los Angeles. I'm not a Southern California person. It's too sunny there, man. I need drama in my weather." That's something I enjoy in life.
I've
been there lots of times.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of times. Yeah. I mean, at that point I had been there a handful of times, now because I worked in the skate industry for so long, I've been there lots of times. But, so I said no. And then, I was at the time man, did I just fuck my life up? I said no to this great opportunity. But then a couple months later, Burton's hiring a snowboard boot developer.
Okay.
And, the team came up to me and they were just like, "Hey, you should apply for this. You're probably the guy." So I applied and I got the job and I started making snowboard boots, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah. So I imagine, you were talking about snowboard boots, people wear them 5 times a year, but everybody wants to know that they could wear them 100 times a year if they wanted to. Everybody they want to be able to aspire to have the. Yeah, you want to have them last, but you also, they're freaking expensive as far as I know.
Yeah.
Now, again,
they are.
I've never been snowboarding before. I've skated, I've skated and, I've got my old dyno comp sitting over there and all this other stuff. So, I'm kind of a shade of understand what's going on, but not entirely. But what were some of the challenges that you had when you were making snowboard boots that you didn't expect when you took the job?
Really, I think the biggest thing that is going to sound funny, but it's honestly the smell of some dude's feet. I'm not naturally a smelly dude, I don't think. maybe if I have weed in my pocket, I stink like a skunk, but I'm not like, I'm just not that fragrant, and my snowboard boots never got that bad. But you get boots back from the tester who had them for 100 days, and dude, like, you would have to keep them in a trailer out back. They're that bad. You know what I mean?
No kidding.
Yeah. and now I have a couple kids who I keep the shoes on the porch because I walk in the house and I'm like, dude, I can smell your shoes.
So that must have led to some microbial investigation and testing.
Yeah,
right?
we used to use Aegis, this antimicrobial technology at the time. They wouldn't tell us what was in it, so you knew it was good shit.
Right.
But it actually did
Fully
work
patented.
on the snowboard boots. Yeah, totally. Probably gives you cancer, that type of thing.
So were you designing like the visuals or the structural or both?
So at first, I even to this day, I didn't really do a ton of like full upper and outsole design. But what I did was input it into that process. I've done a lot of colorway design, done a lot of like component design, like lacing hooks and lace locks and stuff like that. But in my career, when it came to footwear design, like usually there were other people I've worked with. So, at Nike, at Burton, there was a footwear designer who was like paid full time to do the pattern on the snowboard boots and make sure, we were designing an outsole that had the right dimensions and all that kind of stuff. So I've always been the person that gave feedback and briefs to a person like that. And I've done a little bit of it myself, but mostly like on the full colorway side, not really the full structure of the shoe side.
Right. So how did you end up going from obviously doing boots to working at Nike? Because that's a nice transition as well.
Yeah. So actually that was, still doing boots. Around 2006, Nike approached me at a materials show. So I was there with Burton Snowboards, walking around this material show, looking at synthetic leathers and meshes and foams and stuff to make snowboard boots. And somebody grabbed me by the arm and said, "Who do you work for?" And I'm like, Burton. And they said, "Do you want to come check out Nike this afternoon?" And I said, yeah, sure. You know what I mean?
What were they
doing?
doing?
They were recruiters walking around the show,
And they just thought you
people from
looked
the
like
industry.
the guy? Like this looks like the guy?
I mean, look at me, dude. I don't look like anybody else in the sneaker business. Really. Yeah. Like, I didn't have this long beard at the time and I didn't have super long hair, but I've always dressed a little weird maybe. And, had a different look to me to where those guys were like, "Who is this dude?" Like, everybody else there is in button ups with the khakis on. And I was probably in some full print sweatpants, like wearing some crazy colors or something. And, I stood out in the crowd, I suppose. But yeah, so they took me to the Nike campus and I got to meet all the Nike skateboarding guys and they told me, "Hey, we're going to start snowboard boots." And I was like, "Bullshit, you are not. I'm out of here." Like, I was just like, this is fucking crazy. There's no way.
It takes a lot of balls to grab the Burton guy and take him over to their HQ and be like, "Yo."
And I was just like, "No, I just don't believe you. I just don't believe you're committed to it. You'll do it for a year and then it's not enough money for you. There's not enough money in it for you to care." That was my attitude. So I said no, straight up, no, and flew home to Vermont.
Did you tell your guys, "Hey, freaking Nike's trying to they're trying to step in this world"?
I kept it on the down low a little bit. Like, I think I might have told my boss at the time and, the tester guy I worked with and maybe the designer, but I didn't take it seriously. And then, during that time, I was just like, Burton wasn't paying me a lot to do all the snowboard boots. And I had just had a kid and I was just like, dude, I got to figure life out. I want to be able to maybe have a house and not get out of this 900 square foot apartment. And, I want a family. And so I went back to that material show and it happened again, the next year.
Some guy in a polo shirt, with a little swoosh on his thing. Yeah.
Happened again. I was like, "Dude, I already went up there." And the guy was like, "No, we're serious. You should come up here." And it was funny because at the time, I had gone home to like Maine for a cookout. It was like the summer. It was like a month before this material show where the Nike guy grabbed me again. But it was like August, and I went to my friend's house for a cookout, like my best friend from growing up, Eric Boardman, pretty much. And his parents were friends, and my parents were friends with this guy, Ron Plum, who was the New England Nike rep when we grew up. And he was mostly selling apparel. He wasn't the shoe rep, so he was selling socks and T-shirts and stuff like that. But he played soccer with my parents on Sundays, so we knew him, right? And we meet at this cookout. He says, "What are you doing now?" And I said, "Hey, I'm working in footwear, actually. I'm at Burton Snowboards making snowboard boots." And he was like, "Oh, really? My best friend works in SB, and they're starting up snowboarding." And I was like, "Yeah, I know. They already talked to me." And he's like, "Dude, you should really think about it." He's like, "It could change your life." And I was like, "Okay." And then when it happened at the material show again, I called him and like, "Hey, they're going to bring me up there again." He's like, "I knew they would." So we all met, we had lunch, brought me by SB again. And this was the time where I was like, dude, this is probably going to happen soon. You know what I mean? Like,
what was it about this guy's input and advice that you trusted him and, took it more seriously?
So, I mean, that's a deeper story too, because this guy was the New England Nike rep growing up for apparel, and their office was in Greenland, New Hampshire. I grew up in York, Maine. Okay. York, Maine is like really close to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and Greenland, New Hampshire is like the next town down. And that's where Nike's East Coast warehouse was. And like when I was little, he knew I liked sneakers. So he used to bring me to that office and he'd let me take all the product catalogs. And so I had these catalogs to thumb through as a kid. And he used to let me pick shoes out of the B grade bin. So like, if a shoe comes in with a pinhole in it in the wrong spot, or like, the pattern's a little messed up. I mean, that's how I got like nice shoes when I was a kid. My parents were not spending money for shoes a lot.
Dude, so I remember seeing the. I remember when I was a kid, I saw the little clear thing where you could see like the air inside or whatever.
Right.
And we went to, I don't remember, some like Seconds store, and I got one where the fluorescent pink was smeared on the side where the little window is where you could see the cushion. And I'm like, I don't care. I want it. I don't care that it's smeared. I want that so bad. And then the only other pair of cool shoes I ever got when I was a kid there was this buddy of mine named Forrest, who was a shitty kid. And he got taken home to his parents by the cops many, many times. But he's like, "Dude, do you want me to steal you a pair of shoes?" And I just had like generic shoes. They had no label on them, nothing. They were just no shoes. And I'm like, yeah, I would love a pair of shoes. Just get me some Nikes. That was it. Just get me some Nikes. And it ended up being like some like football or American football based shoe with like really pointy, like clear sole or whatever. And I was like a size 8 and he got me like a size 11 or something. Like he just grabbed like whatever was the most convenient shoe to like slip into his starter jacket. He had a Dallas Cowboys starter jacket. And I had a Charlotte Hornets starter jacket, which
that was the one to have.
Dude, I didn't know that, but
that was the one to have,
was like, I guess I'm a Charlotte Hornets fan now. Like I just lived in, it should have been Milwaukee Bucks or something like that. But yeah, just and anyway, so I took these shoes and my dad saw them and he's like, "Where did you get these?" And I'm like, "Oh, my friend got them for me." He's like, "Which friend?" I said, "Forrest." He goes, And he knew exactly where there's only one place in town where he got the shoes. So sure enough, me and my dad took these shoes back to the shoe store and gave them back to the guy. And he's like, yep, those were stolen. Yeah, that was not good, man. I wasn't allowed to hang out
That's
with
Forrest. That's a good dad, though.
Yeah. I didn't also mention that he beat the shit out of my ass too, but
okay, my bad.
That was whatever. I mean, that's how I got cool shoes, I guess, is my friend stole them for me.
That's funny. So actually, like I have a pile of shoes back here. We might as well bring the ones out because I have a story relating to that same thing.
Sure.
So these are not the pair that I got when I was little, but this was my first ever pair of cool shoes. Okay. So like, I think I was maybe 8 years old. So this is 1987. My parents got me new basketball shoes for basketball season. Now my parents are like jocks. They love sports.
Okay.
My dad's huge basketball fan. My mom can beat any dude in any sport. She still plays hockey. She's almost 70. Like, she's a very special athlete. And that's a whole nother story for a whole nother episode probably. But, my parents bought me this colorway of this Jordan 1, on discount, because this was at the time when Jordan made way too many of these in 1985, 86. And by 87, they were $25 a pair, $20 a pair or something. And my parents bought them for me for the basketball season. And I was just in love, dude. Because if you look at shoes back then, like, they were mostly white, all white. And then, this was the era when black shoes started becoming cool. Like Converse Weapons came in black, but none of them came in black with a color. And
Right.
Jordans were like the first to do it. And I was just like, these are awesome. Now, my parents probably didn't buy me the red ones because they're Celtics fans and they didn't want me wearing Bulls colors. But, this was just like the shit. And it was like, from this day on, I was already in love with cars at that point. I was in love with sneakers too. It's my parents' fault. I blame them for it all the time. Like, when I was buying shoes in my early 20s and they were like, "Ooh, you're just wasting your money," I was like, it's your fault. You're the one who hooked me on this, Kind of funny.
AC Solutions offers complete plug-and-play air conditioning conversion kits for your classic BMW, such as the E30, E28, and E24, and soon-to-be Porsche. Featuring OEM-quality components with period-correct finishes and materials, their products are designed as a drop-in upgrade to your old factory system, but with the performance of modern technology. Their products stem from hands-on design and development with a deep knowledge and passion for these vehicles. They're designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts and come complete with a full warranty and quality instructions mirroring those of a factory manual. Check them all out at acsolutions.co. That's acsolutions.co. Petrolbox is a monthly service made specifically for the automotive enthusiast. Each month, they carefully select items including tools, detailing supplies, apparel, garage gear, stickers, and publications to be sent right there to your doorstep. It's a curated selection of the latest and greatest gear in the industry, and there's actually 2 different levels of subscription to choose from. The Petrolbox Basic costs less than $20 a month, while the Petrolbox Premium gets you even more gear for $39.95 a month. Check them out at mypetrolbox.com and be sure to use the code Overcrest at checkout to get $6 off your first month.
Yeah, I remember looking at this stuff, but like, I was so far from, I lived in a little town in Wisconsin. There was no shoe culture, nothing. It's the Midwest. Nothing's going on. I mean, it was BMX was the big thing. There was nothing for shoes.
I mean, dude, I was so lucky to have this guy, Ron Plum, in my life that was the Nike rep in New England, because otherwise I would have had no connection to it either. I'm from Maine, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like middle of nowhere Maine, but it's Maine. There's not a lot there, except for lobster and landscapers.
That explains why you trusted this guy and went for the leap.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a dream at that point. Like, I really just didn't know what to expect, and then I got there. And that was something different.
Yeah. So then what was your first gig when you started, let me rephrase it this way. What was Nike's program like then, making snowboard boots as like a new company that hadn't done it before? Was it like a total shit show, or did they have enough talent around to make it work?
Well, so they they had started some stuff before I got there. It had some major problems, but there was a start, right? And there were some amazing people there working on the stuff. They had just never made a snowboard boot before. I'll throw out a couple names here, and they'll be familiar to some of the people, in this world. But Anthony Hope, who now does Roma, he was one of the guys working on those original snowboard boots. And they were really cool. Like, they looked like Zoom Force 1s. They looked like sneakers. You know what I mean? And that's what the coolest part about Nike and snowboarding is. It's just like a big sneaker. And other snowboard boot companies make snowboard boots, and these guys were making big sneakers that you could snowboard in, which is like a pretty cool thing, right? They had not come out yet, though, and they didn't fit in bindings. And like, the first time I ever rode them at Mount Hood, my first day at work, basically, they cut into my Achilles and made it bleed because the internal supports were not made correctly. just like not designed in the right way. They basically snapped, and then there were sharp edges. Where with a snowboard boot, the backstay of it, the spine of the snowboard boot is one of the most important parts. It's got to be stiff, but not so stiff it's like cutting into you or uncomfortable.
How does this happen? You think that they would have bought like, other snowboard boots from other companies and been like, oh, were they trying to innovate and that's why they failed? Or was it more of like, we just don't know what we're doing?
It was more at that time. They just like, they were making snowboard boots like snowboard boots were made like, 10 years prior. They weren't they weren't thinking about some issues that snowboarders at the time are really facing. Because if you look at the progression of snowboarding, there's snowboarding from like, 1990 where dudes are barely getting out of the half pipe to like 2000 when dudes are going 20 feet out doing double McTwists. That's a big difference. And that's a lot of different pressures you're putting on snowboards, bindings, and snowboard boots. So like things got to a point where they had to be a lot more supportive than they ever had in the past. And I just think Nike, there was like at Nike, I'm probably going to take some heat from some people by saying some things, but I'll allude to it in the same way I alluded to it before in the example of a 5-day-a-year rider to a 100-day-a-year rider. Typically, Nike just makes sure a shoe works for a race, the game. Then you throw them out and you get a new pair, right? They weren't thinking like, oh, this has to last for 100 days. They just weren't, it wasn't in their mind. And that was something I had to teach them as the talent they hired to fix the problem.
How'd they take that advice?
Pretty good. I mean, like they let me snowboard every day to try to make the boots better, to make them happen. So I can't, I lived a really good lifestyle for a long time, just snowboarding every day, coming home at like 3:00, iterating, making them better, ordering samples from a factory, and then doing it all again. Like that was the hamster wheel I was on, and it was awesome.
So how long does it take to go from like someone sketches the boot, they make the prototype of the boot, and you're wearing it, you say, hey, we're good to go now, and it goes out on sale? Like how long does this process take?
So it depends, right? Because there's short track projects and there's long track projects. So you could have a project, I think if you're doing it right, you have projects that probably never come out. If you're not taking risks like that, then you're not pushing the envelope enough. But there are projects that start 5 years out, 3 years out. A typical track is like 18 months out. You're starting a project. 2 years to 18 months out, you start a project. You give yourself some time to test it. And then the deadline really is 6 months before it comes out. You got to be able to commercialize that thing so you can like buy all the raw materials to do your production run, get them to a factory and have it made. So it's like 6 months before it comes out. Product should be finalized and then orders should be placed. And then they're made, 6 to 8 weeks before they hit the warehouse because, you're sending them on a boat. It's like
How'd you start making shoes? How'd you go from snowboards to shoes there?
So,
it's not like a little thing above the water cooler that says, hey, actually, we need a guy to do some shoes. Call Bob at HR. We'll get you set up.
So it was an interesting one because Nike, when they hired me, every other business at Nike is a 4-season-a-year business, right? Then they hire somebody to do the snowboard boots and they're like, that's a 1-season-a-year job. And I'm like, no, it's a full-time job to make sure these things work right.
You got to keep going. You got to use the off season and the downtime when you can.
Yeah. Right. But they were like, no, you can do some shoes in your downtime in the other 3 seasons. And I was like, all right, cool. I want to learn that too. That's why I'm here.
That doesn't exist, but sure, I'll do that. No problem.
I want to learn from the best. Right. So Nike snowboarding was part of the same group that Nike skateboarding, Nike SB was, and Nike 6.0 at the time. So I got to make some Nike 6.0 shoes and I got to make some Nike SB shoes because I sat next to the guys that were doing Nike SBs. And I think people realized pretty quick that I was just a materials geek. I would spend a lot of time up in the Nike materials library, digging through samples, cutting stuff up, making sure I had like cool materials to use.
What's this library like? What is the Nike materials library?
I mean, it's basically like racks of like, there's a mesh section, there's an air mesh section, there's a leather section, there's a synthetic leather section, and it's all samples and books that you can dig through. like for me, coming from a small company like Burton Snowboards, where the books were at my desk and I had like 10,
Yep.
to go up to a library was just like a kid in a candy store. It was like,
Sure.
I spent a lot of time there, dude. Like
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun digging through stuff, and a lot of the stuff I found was really dumb, but I've always been interested in the new treatment that this, whatever that new treatment was that season. I wanted to go up to the library and see it and cut up a sample and make sure I had it. So when I, ended up picking stuff for shoes, I was picking the good shit. You know what I mean?
You're heading up to the library and you're checking out stuff. What part of the shoe are you involved with at that time? Like, what is your job? What are you up to? You're going up to the library, you're looking at stuff. Are you advising people? Are you giving, or are you actually like, what are you up to?
Yeah. So there would be, somebody would have an idea. So this is a perfect segue into another shoe I have back here.
Yeah.
My first ever dunk I got to be part of was the Concepts lobster dunk. It's a really, really famous one. And so I've got a couple pairs of them back here. This is the first shoe I got to work on, right? And I'm from Maine, dude. It's a lobster dunk. Like, how perfect of a situation.
Yeah.
But there's a special story that goes along with that because, when I was in high school and, even middle school, growing up in Southern Maine, there wasn't skate shops, right? There ended up being one when I was in high school. But before that, like right before that, when I was 12, 13, I had to go to Boston to get skateboards. And there were two places I used to go. It was Blades Board and Skate, and it was Concepts. And Concepts in Boston is now like the big sneaker retailer, right? Like they are like the big dudes. And this was a collaboration with Concept Skate Shop. So when I got to SB, those guys knew I knew the guys from Concepts. I know Spongy, Dion, and Tarek really well. Those guys are fucking legends. And so the next time I flew home for Thanksgiving, stopped in the shop and they talked to me about this idea. And I'm like, perfect. I know the exact material to use. This leather with the little kind of dots on it that looks like lobster. We just started, we're down in the basement of Concepts drinking cognac, talking about this lobster shoe. And we're like, just shooting the shit like, oh man, we could use the paper lining that they give you your lobster roll with, like, or your lobster in, like on those, country lobster stands that they have in Maine.
Yep.
We were like, oh yeah, we can include a second set of laces that are like the butter, you know what I mean? Like the clarified butter. And then we're like, oh yeah, we could do another colorway and make it more rare. That's blue because blue lobsters are more rare. And then we're like, oh, we could do a yellow one. So like the ideas just started snowballing, and that's kind of how a lot of this stuff happens. You're just shooting the shit with people, having a good time, kind of joking around about something that's sort of ridiculous, but then it sort of works. And then if you do it, I found in my life, kind of like the more silly stuff you do, the more attention it gets, and people just eat that shit up. You know what I mean? It was like, it's storytelling, really. It's the same way you guys want to tell the story of Overcrest and how like special those moments are. You do that on a sneaker too, with some like ridiculous topic, and it can really work,
So what is the rest of the sneaker industry like at this time? Is this something that is fairly common, or was this something different that you guys were doing? Because it seems pretty off the wall for the time period.
It is. Well, but SB is like Nike SB are the ones who started to do that. And I was just like a really good fit for that culture. I was a kid who worked in skate shops. I liked like stupid things that make you laugh. And Nike SB was already doing that. Like, so one of the reasons I really said yes to the job was because of that, because of the storytelling I saw. I was working in that Burton Snowboard shop even before I got the boot job, and dudes would come in wearing the dunks. And like, I remember seeing the first time I saw the De La Soul dunks, right? They were dunks at the time that had this dunk highs that had this crazy cracked material on it, and like lenticular, like hologram shit on it. Like, I was just like, whoa, like,
dang, those go for some money right now, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah. As a product person, if you see that stuff, like, you're just like, wow, like you appreciate the thought that gets put into making something like that. Right. And, like SB, I loved that they were like from a big company like Nike, and they weren't afraid to get into trouble every once in a while. You know what I mean? That's like, that's half the reason I think we all one of the reasons we all like to drive is like, maybe we'll get in trouble today, or maybe we won't. Makes it exciting. You know what I mean? Like
anything valuable's got risk involved. That's for sure.
Yeah. So check this out. This was the shoe that they gave me when I visited the campus one of those times. This is the Pee Wee Herman Dunk, right? The Pee Wee Herman Dunk. It looks like his suit with his red bow tie, right?
Yep.
And it's pretty simple. There's not it's not like, if this is like one of the ones that's cool. It's like kind of 007, you know what I mean? If you know, you know.
Yep.
But this is the Pee Wee Herman Dunk, and you wouldn't know it's Pee Wee Herman Dunk unless you really knew the full story behind the shoe. But the special part about the shoe is on the inside where they hid the graphic. Now, what did Pee Wee Herman get in trouble for, Chris?
Jacking off in a theater. Oh man, that is
he's got
edgy,
one hand off the armrest.
Edgy.
Nike SB did this shit, dude. And that's one of the things I was just like, I want to be part of that. I want to be part of that ridiculous shit and see like how far you could push the envelope before you get in trouble.
How does a department like that get that kind of autonomy from a corporate entity like Nike?
Well, it was really lucky because at the time, I think there were a few guys at Nike that understood if they wanted to do skateboarding right, there were going to have to be some things done by some people that don't necessarily fit into what the idea of Nike is. So really, like those early days, and even until maybe like 2012-ish, they kept Nike SB pretty separate from everybody else. Like nobody reviewed the shit. Like the stuff that came out, and if you got in trouble, you got in trouble. I've been in the lawyer's office and I know what that's like. And like that's part of it though. Like you do stuff like that that's super memorable and you're pushing the envelope. Like if you're not, then your stuff is pretty boring. And we can talk about the sneaker industry now. It's pretty goddamn boring. Like there's not,
what happened?
Nobody's trying to get in trouble like that. Lawyers are lawyers. And I also think, I'm not trying to say that I'm not woke or whatever, but there's a certain, like you couldn't do that today, that Pee Wee Herman thing. There's no way, like that, a big company like Nike trying to do that, like you definitely get in the news. You know what I mean? So, it's a little bit of what Jerry Seinfeld's been talking about lately. And I don't agree with everything that's out there, but that's the fact. Like comedy is not what comedy used to be. You know what I mean? That Tom Brady roast we all just watched, that's a rarity these days.
That was savage,
you know what I mean?
I was watching that. Like, what are the headlines going to be like tomorrow? Holy shit.
Like, and there's a reason for that, and that's okay. You know what I mean? But I do think they're like, sometimes it gets taken too far and you're not allowed to have fun. Like, I'm not trying to oppress anybody or make comments like that in any way, but if you're ridiculous these days, a lot of times people don't take you seriously anymore, and it's something that I've felt in my career. Like, there's a certain tolerance for how ridiculous you can be. And that's the way the world is now.
So tell me about the Magnus Walker shoe. How did that come about?
Oh, so that was a pretty special moment for me in my career at Nike for sure. And really how it came about, that was another thing that was kind of years in the making. When Magnus came out with the Urban Outlaw video, I saw it right away, right? And as somebody who kind of prides themselves a little bit on not fitting in and doing things you love and then like having it be different, I just like, it was a thing that I connected with. And I sent it to the guy who ran Nike SB at the time, Sandy Bodecker. Rest in peace, Sandy Bodecker. He was the guy who pretty much brought me into Nike and realized that a lot of us misfits who were doing Nike SB could make it magic because we were different. And, so I sent it to him, and he was a guy who drove 911s to work, At the time, he was driving the brand new 2012 GT2 RS. His was white. And, you know, for me, a dude from Maine who loved cars, that didn't really see fancy cars growing up, to now be working with people that were driving shit like that was like kind of a cool thing. So every time I had the chance to talk to him about cars, I would. And I was kind of hoping I'd get written up as will and he'd give me a car, but that didn't happen. So that's another story too. But but anyway, so I sent it to him, and he took the entire Nike SB leadership team down to Magnus's, and
It impacted him that hard seeing that.
yeah.
I think
He
it's
went
important
right
to
down there, 'cause-
remember we're like way into the Magnus Walker phenomenon now. Like it's
this was when it happened, right?
So when this
it
happened, this film comes out. I remember I was sitting in my buddy's shop, and we would hang out there every Friday night, and we would just shoot the shit, make fun of each other, work on cars, whatever. We remember seeing it. And I remember first thinking, okay, who is this dude with the dreads in LA doing shit? From a Midwest guy,
Yeah.
It was so far removed from anything I had ever seen before. So far removed that it definitely struck my attention. And it's, again, at the inception, now we're all kind of used to Magnus Walker's thing. We've all seen what he does. We've seen the film. We kind of, if someone says, hey, I'm going to show you something from Magnus Walker, we kind of know, hey, mate, you know, we kind of understand the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
But back then,
Time will tell,
it was
you know, like-
completely different. No one had ever done anything like that before, especially in the Porsche world. It was pretty punk rock at the time.
Yeah. And, you know, like, it was just inspiring to me, like the story of coming to the US with nothing and making it happen. Like, I think that's pretty cool, you know? So anyways, I send them that video. They all go down there. They get inspired, you know?
Did you have any connection with Magnus at the time?
No,
and they didn't take you.
Not at all. No, they didn't take, because I was just like some dude making snowboard boots. It didn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I mean, I did matter to them, but I mattered in the snowboard boot way, not the leadership way.
Yeah.
So anyways, they all go down there. They have a great time. I hear a lot about it from Sandy. It's cool. And then, you know, a few years go by, like, you know, Nike decides to end Nike snowboarding, you know, so I decide, well, fuck, like, what am I going to do? You know, I thought I was going to get canned, and, you know, Sandy came to me. And he's like, hey, we want to chat about, you know, snowboarding ending and what to do next. And, you know, I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought I was going to lose my job.
Were you scared?
And he was like, is there anywhere else at Nike you want to work? I was a little scared, dude, because, like, coming to work, like, I mean, people at Nike know this is going on still. Like, they're going through layoffs right now. So it's a thing for people. But he asked if I wanted to work anywhere else at Nike. And I kind of said, well, the two places I work at this place are probably innovation and soccer. Because I was just like, you know, to have an experience that's totally different and worldly, you know, I've been to a lot of cold places working in snowboarding for like a decade. Yeah. And I was like, oh, you know, what else is out there? So I just threw out soccer, and then Nike had a senior PLM role open up in the soccer group, and they gave it to me, you know, which was awesome, dude. I got to go to the 2014 World Cup, you know, like, I didn't think I'd ever have a chance to do something like that.
What was that job like? What was
gotten to meet.
I mean, in terms of contrast, you got it. You asked for it. You got it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I asked for it and I got it. And, you know, those first few trips, I mean, picture like a bearded guy like this going to meet like soccer players. I don't think they knew what to think. You know what I mean? Like,
man, why is that guy wearing so much sunscreen? What's going on?
Yeah. Why does he have like bloodshot eyeballs on his socks? You know, like just like weird stuff that, you know, European, especially like British Europeans, like don't understand stony skater types. You know what I mean? It's just not on the radar, like growing up at all. So, but it was really interesting, you know, being able to work with like Cristiano Ronaldo and Totti and, Pirlo and Eden Hazard and like all these people that Ronaldo, you know what I mean? Like all these people I knew from, you know, I was a pretty big soccer fan in high school and college, and I watched a lot. You know, part of my upbringing was my parents playing soccer all the time and watching that. So, it it was like just an incredible experience to be like on that type of a level, staying at the best hotels in the world, having VIP tickets to every game. Like it was just like something that like is so special that only a place like Nike can give that to you in your career. There's no other place like that. And I was really lucky to live that.
Why do you think that?
Because I'm a storyteller, dude. Like I really think that was it. Because when I was there, I wasn't doing like your everyday soccer cleats. I was doing like the special edition stuff. I was doing like the stuff that was like, hey, we want to energize it, kind of like the way SB energizes it. So can you tell some stories on our stuff that are like SB type stories? And I was like, hell yeah. So we did like, for Pirlo, he owns wineries. We did a wine shoe, came in a wine box. You know what I mean? And the difference between that job and the skate job was when you get to a place like Nike Soccer, that's when you really have resources. Like we used to set up collaborations in SB and be like, we can't pay you. Like, we're just trying to make it happen. But in soccer, it's like, oh yeah, here's the big check. Here's the,
because you're going from selling shoes to broke skater kids to international market.
Right. And, you're talking about millions to billions, like it's different. And, I think I have a pair in here of soccer cleats. Maybe I forgot to bring them. I don't know. I had a pair of soccer cleats in here, I thought. But anyways, I was able to like go to EA Sports and talk to them about the FIFA franchise and be like, hey, we want to do a soccer cleat in your game. And they were like, what? They didn't understand it at the time what I was talking about.
You
right?
guys are going to sell a lot of these as microtransactions down the road.
Yeah. So dude, like that's the kind of talk that started all that shit, right? Like where they started charging for the boots. And, like I think I can speak proudly that us and that soccer team, we were the first ones to realize that type of connection with consumers. Like that shit they're doing with Fortnite now all started from a place with EA Sports where, they were selling like $25-30 million of wear this soccer cleat on your player in the game.
Which seems like from like
crazy.
Going back and playing like Black Ops 4, where you just bought the game and you're just playing the game. So I think EA also started doing it in Battlefront. Star Wars too.
They definitely did. They were the first ones that really figured that monetization out of customization. And now look at it. It's like the games are free now and you pay to customize. That's what Fortnite is, right?
Yep. Yeah. I don't know if I like it or not. I mean, because you don't have to buy any of that shit, but you really kind of want to. Like, I remember seeing like
it's because it's what makes the game fun, right? Is the customization aspect is like, hey, my character looks a certain way, it represents me, and I'm going to smoke you in this game.
Or cars, or anything, or anything else. Or you wear like you're wearing like a Nicki Minaj skin, and you go just like teabag somebody out on the field. I mean, who doesn't want to do that?
Oh man, go ahead. Did you have another question about soccer?
Yeah, I do, man. That must have been you said it was an incredible experience, but it's hard for me to wrap my mind around going from, bleeding ankles, with these new snowboards to meeting Ronaldo or something and just these top tier soccer players and traveling the world. And I understand the storytelling part of that, but it's hard for me as a guy that doesn't understand the shoe industry that much to place so much value on. I just didn't I didn't understand the value that could be placed on storytelling with shoes.
Dude, it's nuts, man. And I say this like as a collector. I'm sitting in a room of like vinyl toys and sneakers and Lego and all these things. It's something like I've realized how really like fucked up it is for the planet that we all collect these things because we don't need these things.
Yeah.
And we're spending money on things that are very frivolous, but at the same time, they kind of make me happy. So like, but it's a conscious decision now. Like I don't collect shit anymore. I only want shit I'm going to use. I have enough shit sitting around the house. Like Laura's even like been like, get all your fucking shit and put it down in your office. I don't want to see that shit. You have way too much stuff for me to dust. She just is like, she can't even deal with the amount of stuff I have. And I'm trying now in life to have less stuff and more stuff that mean, like, more of the things that have meaning to me, and less of just a toy or like a Simpsons thing or like a Mr. Hanky I bought on the Overcrest rally. I still slip up every once in a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we're cracked for that with all the stuff that we give in the collector bag. We named it a collector bag for a reason. But I want to like go back like soccer into we were talking about the Magnus Walker shoe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, so this 2 years later, you're doing, you're just starting to get into the soccer thing or whatever. How did the revisitation of that concept happen?
So, in 2017, after I had been in soccer for about 3.5 years, Nike went through another reorg. Okay. And when I say reorg, means they laid a bunch of people off and they moved some people. Same as they just went through a couple weeks ago. And they moved me back into Nike SB. And part of me was like, oh, fuck, dude. Like, I know how this is viewed in the organization. I'm going backwards. Okay. Because for a long time, I was only going up. And then all of a sudden I was like, ooh, back to the small business. Right. So, I'm not everybody's taste, and I get that. That's just the fact of life.
Did someone have it out for you, or what was the reason that you think you got?
No, I mean, not necessarily as much as they were like, yeah, this guy's potential, he's probably not going to be working in a mainstream business. He's probably better suited to go back there and goof off. And no doubt, I think I am better suited for that kind of thing. Because when I got control of the dunk program, this is the first time, like, I'm not just working on the dunks, but I'm controlling it. I was like, I don't give a fuck anymore. Let's do some fucking crazy shit. And that was my attitude. And people that worked with me at the time, they know that was my attitude. And so I was like literally over there trying to break the system a little bit. It's part of my personality, is that rebel personality from skating and snowboarding, man. I'm going to break into your pool. I'm going to skate it. And I'm going to get out of there and not get in trouble, but maybe I'll get in trouble.
Right. So tell me what that means when you're going to fuck shit up over there. Tell me what that means.
So I'm just going to, like, one of the things I had done previously in my career that I got in some trouble for is I did weed shoes at Nike, right? I did the skunk dunk. I did a marijuana shoe at Nike. When I got back,
how did that get through, man? There's somebody that must have been like because we were literally, Sandy kind of gave us the permission to shoot first and ask questions later. That was really kind of like that's how the Pee Wee Herman shoe happened. That's how a lot of this stuff I did happen. So like, this is like the weed shoe, dude. It's called the skunk dunk. This is a prototype of it. Real heads will know that the swoosh is incorrect, right? Because this is my pair that I wore to wear test this material, because we invented it with the vendor to look like weed. So like, this is the type of stuff I was on. I was like, all right, I want, green material that looks like weed with some white frost coming through to represent the trichomes on the weed plant. I want little orange hairs. So all the stitching is like little orange, red, and then Todd Brattrud, skate artist from Minnesota, did the art. He's awesome. I got skateboards hanging on my wall over here of his, but he basically drew a stoned skunk cartoon, and we had it reviewed by legal, and they were like, can you make the skunk look less sick? And it's like the lady didn't even know that we were doing it stoned, It was so funny, just because like we were like, no, it's just a skunk shoe and it's green, like we didn't tell him like it was weed. And luckily our legal counsel wasn't smart enough to figure it out before it came out. But then it comes out and now they're worth thousands of dollars. You know what I mean? That. But we got in trouble after the fact, right? Like, because there are certain people at Nike like, we don't like weed. Well, that can't be our image. It's like, well, this is to skateboarders sold in skate shops. Skateboarders fucking love weed. This is a huge hit. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But basically, like, that is like fun, right? Like, when you get in trouble and it works and you got a story to tell, that shit is fun.
So what was the repercussions of it from a corporate standpoint, did you get called in where you had to go stand there in the office with the guy in the desk and you're just like, yeah, man. Hey, yeah.
Yeah. So like, really it was Sandy Bodecker and this other guy, John Martin, creative director of SB at the time, that had to sit in front of the Mark Parkers of the world and get yelled at about this stuff. And then we would get called into their office and they'd be laughing about getting in trouble because of the shit we did. You know what I mean? Like, that's how cool those dudes were.
Was it like
they were like really our protectors?
Is it like even the guys yelling at them, were they just doing like CYA yelling? Were they like, this is kind of dope, it makes our company cool? You know what I mean? Like they're like, yeah, we're gonna yell, so. Shame on you type of thing.
I think so. It was more like, yeah, dude, like you got away with it this time, but there's a certain point where it's going to get you. You know what I mean? Like it will get you and it will cost you some money. And, the other time it happened back in those days is we did a Cheech and Chong shoe without asking Cheech and Chong.
Oh,
the photos are on my Instagram. You can go back and check. You can steal it for the video and put it in later. But so, we did a Cheech and Chong shoe, didn't ask permission. Shoe comes out. One shoe looks like Chong, one shoe looks like Cheech. They're white. They rip to green suede. Like the white is a joint paper and green suede comes out like it's weed. And, one of them is like beanie material. The other one's bandana material.
Let me see it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then there's like literally clouds of smoke on the sock liner and stuff like that. But so we do that shoe and Cheech and Chong's legal representation calls Nike and they were just like, what the hell? Like they acted all upset. So we get called in this office. Cheech and Chong are all upset. And, we're kind of like, oh, fuck. Is this the one that's going to get us fired?
Does it say like Cheech and Chong on the box? Or is it kind of like this gray area?
No, it's gray area, dude.
Yeah.
It's gray area.
Okay.
It all is. All these things are, right?
Yep.
And so but that's also what makes it cool. It's like, if you don't know, you don't know. If you know, you're in the club. That's why this stuff is cool. So anyways, we figure out though that we're like, okay, what do you want for us doing the shoe? We're sorry. And Cheech and Chong go, can you send us 30 pairs to give to our foundation for the kids for our foundation? And by the way, the guy that did the shoes, can you give him backstage passes to our Portland show? We want to meet him. So I got fucking backstage passes to go see Cheech and Chong's comedy show at the Schnitzer Amphitheater in Portland. And I got a photo with Cheech and Chong just chilling. Like, we're smoking weed and I'm chilling with Cheech and Chong.
Rewarded once again.
Like, yeah, Nike, dude, like, that's the thing about Nike too, is like that nowhere else would that have ever happened. I feel like I could have made a Cheech and Chong bike and they wouldn't have given a shit. But because it was a Nike shoe, they were like, dude.
Well, yeah, that's brand association.
Give this guy backstage
right there.
Yeah. So, yeah, dude, I mean, if you want to get back to your original thing about how did I get back to the Magnus Walker thing and how do we revisit that though? I got reorged back into the skateboarding department in 2017. And I get put in control of this dunk program. And about a year in, we're looking for ideas. And I have this idea because I just got the Magnus Hot Wheel at Fred Meyer. And I was just like, dude, this could be a shoe. You know what I mean? And, Sandy was still alive. And, I asked Sandy, I was like, dude, we should do a Magnus Walker shoe, dude. And he was like, yeah, do it, man. Urban Outlaw, and that's kind of like, if you say Urban Outlaw to a skateboarder, like, hey, you're an Urban Outlaw, they're going to be like, that shit is corny as fuck. Right.
Yeah.
But as soon as you put the aesthetic of the car to it and make it more about that, it becomes like, hang on, this is something. It's speaking to like an audience of skateboarders that, maybe probably aren't that many skateboarders that own a Porsche or are into Porsches, but there are a lot that like, are familiar with Hot Wheels, are familiar with a rebel attitude. And, Porsches are fucking cool, even if they're inaccessible to a lot of people. You know what I mean? There's a reason you got one. There's a reason I have one. We aspired to it when we were little, probably, you know what I mean? And, So we ended up calling him, and dude, like, so I fly down to LA, and Magnus is just like, yeah, come by. Well, let's chat about this. Cause I DM'd him on Instagram. I was just like, hey dude, I got this idea. Would you ever be interested in doing a Nike shoe? And he's just like, you going to be in LA soon? I was like, I can book a flight right now. So I went down and visited him, and like literally in that couple of days before when I called him to when I met Magnus down at Magnus's place, Sandy Bodecker, the godfather of SB, the guy that hired me and actually is probably one of the only people that really saw my potential in that company, he passed away. And that was a crazy moment for all of us in SBU, especially the people that kind of lived on the fringe of what Nike, the corporation, was. We all knew our time was limited once Sandy wasn't protecting us anymore. And so that was tough. So I went down and met Magnus, and I had to be like, hey, you remember Sandy, the guy that brought all the SB guys down here? And he's like, yeah, say hi to him, whatever. I'm like, well, he just passed away. So I had to like deliver this news to Magnus as it's all happening. And I'm asking him to do a shoe project with us, which is kind of a weird, heavy moment. But what was really cool about Magnus in that moment, I think he saw like how special it could be and how many people it could touch. And, I had no budget to pay Magnus, no promise other than this cool thing that I had a vision of in my mind. And Magnus was like, you know what, man, I don't do deals for money, but this one feels right. Let's fucking do it. And we did it, And, the rest is sort of history, but I got a brand new pair of the shoes in the box right here. And this is the 277 Dunk, with Magnus's details on it. A lot of inspiration from his car, like the Carrera stripe on the side, his stickers and where he put them. 277, the Union Jack he's always got to have. The tartan interiors that actually mismatch right and left.
When that shoe came out, I was like, that is lame. But deep down inside, I was like, that's pretty dope. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I wanted to wanted to hate, but I couldn't. It's just, it's pretty dope.
It's easy to hate because it's like so directional and it's a thing, right? But there's an attraction to it that's, I think, kind of special. Like if I wear these shoes around, I'm like, oh my God, people are looking at my feet. It's one of those things, especially like new shoes. Like one thing to know about me is I don't like new shoes, dude. I like dirty shoes. I like my shoes to be fucked up. So if I have a new pair of shoes on, I do not feel like myself. And that's funny for a guy like that worked 13 years at Nike to say, but even people that know me at Nike knew I wore the same pair of Jordan 1s like pretty much every day, and they were beat to hell. But anyways, like the shoe, even like it's so deep and connected to the car, and that, Magnus's 277 is originally a gold car. And a lot of people don't know that. And this suede has a white crust on top, like Magnus's crusty ass paint, that actually rips if you skate it down to show the gold suede underneath.
No shit. That's dope.
So if you walk around Magnus's car and you see like the multiple layers of paint and you see that gold layer, that's represented on the shoe too. So, like it's storytelling, dude. Like I have a lot of fun doing it,
Hold on. I just had my wife just brought me these shoes. You like the used ones and the beat ones.
Oh, hell yeah.
Look at these things,
nice
man.
Pair of Nikes you got there.
Yeah, right. Well, this is pre, dude. Look at the tongue, or look at the cap. This is pre-Nike. These are.
Oh, you think so?
Oh, yeah. These are for sure. How do I don't even know how to know, but these are really.
On the barcode, on the barcode, there should be a date that tells you the manufacture date.
Barcode? Like, where would that even be? There's no.
Did it wear off? Yeah, it might have worn off.
I don't know. It's long gone, but these things are used. I put these things on every once in a while.
Oh yeah, you can't even see the diamond pattern on the bottom anymore.
No, these are gone. These are great to drive in. I love driving in these. I wish I could wear them more, but they're so far gone now. They're so far gone that they're almost just something that, I just kind of keep around for keeping around. I'll have to try. I like to drive with
thin shoes too.
I don't really know. Yeah, there's really no way to know anymore because they're so trash. But I know that the toe cap is different than almost anything I see today. like the actual toe cap of the shoe is just so much. The shape of it is completely different.
It's rounder.
Yeah,
it looks like.
Yeah, especially in this area right here, down at the bottom right here. It's a lot rounder.
Yeah.
The only other pair of shoes I have, I got from my buddy Mike. It's these. I've got these, and he gave these to me, and I kind of dig them. But when I put these things on as like a Chuck Taylor guy, I am super self-conscious because I'm like,
I can't even picture you in something like that, dude. It's so funny.
I know. Yeah. It's so like, 'cause every single pair of my jeans is destroyed. I generally wear black t-shirts all the time because if it's a colored t-shirt, I ruin it. Like it's always ruined. Everything's always dirty. All my Chuck Taylors last like 5 minutes before they're absolutely just destroyed and dirty. So like something like this, where it's like, he's like, oh, dude, make sure you keep the box. The box is like one of the coolest parts. And I'm just like, these are amazing. They look cool, but I don't know. I feel a little weird.
Yeah. You should fuck them up and get them dirty, dude. They'll look better.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe we'll do that. Yeah. So I wanted to actually one more thing. What was the last shoe that you designed that you were a part of?
Ooh, the last one.
Yeah.
So that's a hard question because, I had like a strategy roadmap when I left of all the ideas I wanted to do or we wanted to do. And dude, some of them are still coming out. So,
and they
have my
for
files
that too, right?
And they're digging through them. Yeah, right. I wish, dude. But that's a hard question. What is the last shoe that I don't know if I know the answer to that question. Also, because I don't fucking pay attention anymore either. I had to pay attention for so many years to that shit as a job. And, there was a time it was probably like 2012, 2013 that I was just kind of over sneakers. You know what I mean? Like once you know everything about them and you've been inside and out, it's just like, there's nothing more to learn about it. There's still interesting things, but when you're at Nike, it's like, you can't wear other brands.
Did you run out of stories to tell? What happened?
No, because there's always stories, dude. I got to, even today I was shooting the shit with one of the guys that still works in SB saying like, dude, here's an idea. It's still kind of fun to, have those conversations and ideate with that type of humor and laughing. And like, I do miss that a lot, but like,
what would an Overcrest shoe look like, man? Like if it was like a white version of like a Jordan or a Dunk or something, what would an Overcrest shoe in your mind?
I mean, dude, like take the Overcrest Mercedes as an example. Just put the snakes on it, put the Overcrest logo on it, make sure it looks patinaed and rusty in spots. Make sure it has dirt on it. Like you could make it look like it did a Utah rally and has the orangish dirt all over it. You know what I mean? Like there's inspiration everywhere, man. Like I could get inspired by almost anything as long as like I'm into it and I see the potential of it. Like, and that's where like a lot of things can fall apart is when you don't see the potential in somebody's idea. Cause like, that's probably one of the things that led to my downfall at Nike where I was just, sometimes I didn't see it. And there are probably great ideas from other people that I just brushed aside that, were probably good ones. But I work a certain way, you know what I mean? And if I don't see it, I don't see it. I only get excited when I see it,
Yeah,
so
I'm the
it's
same
like
way.
It's the classic artist problem, dude. Like, or like creative person problem is like, if you're not on somebody's wavelength, man,
you just can't hear
sometimes the wavelengths don't connect. Yeah,
you just can't hear it.
Hear
it's like a dog whistle. It's just like, I can't pick it up, man. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Well, I wanted to read your post that you kind of like was the inception of having you on the podcast in the first place. And
sure.
I want to talk about, how you injure yourself and maybe discovering cars, not discovering cars, but how that all happened. It says, my life changed when I injured my back. Years of pain and depression because I couldn't do what I loved anymore took its toll for sure. My other love was always driving, so I decided to go all in. I forgot the first sentence was, I miss snowboarding a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now after talking with you, we can, I didn't have a really understanding of why, cause like I miss lots of shit I don't do anymore, but seeing how intertwined in your life it was, it makes more sense. This car saved my life. I really believe that. Pain is dark. I still hurt, but while driving, I forget about it. It provides me the speed, fun, and outdoor experiences that I crave. It's the closest thing that I can do to get those feelings I used to have while riding. Tarmac is like a groomer. It's fast and tight. Apexing a corner is like holding an edge while dragging a hand. Gravel is like powder day, a little slower and looser in the turns. Feeling the rear end wag and watching a rooster tail form is so similar to that floaty sensation of a deep slash. These are the moments that I am truly happy. Usually I'm a person of few words on social media, but the experience provided by Overcrest really has me all up in the feels. I still snowboard in my dreams. Sometimes it feels so real. One day in heaven, I hope to do it again. Snowboarding. I'll see you at the crossroads.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard for me to read that without choking up a little bit. Tell me what happened.
I mean, I'm holding tears back for sure. So yeah, because I used to test snowboard boots like every day. I rode a lot, and I was so lucky to have so many years with so many days on the mountain. Not a lot of people get that in their life, and I wish everybody could feel as free as those days that I felt that free doing that, But, like towards the end of my career making snowboard boots, it's kind of like odd how it all timed kind of correctly with the way Nike snowboarding ended and my back injury and everything. But yeah, there were days where I would go snowboarding with, my best buddy snowboard boot tester at the time, Swifty. He's a legend from Mount Hood. And there were days where I would tell him like, hey dude, like, we were going down that and like something in my back didn't feel right, like, or I'd hit a bump or something. I'd be like, ooh, that felt weird. Okay. But then I'd keep snowboarding. And then I had one crash where, conditions can change on a mountain really fast with wind and snowstorms and stuff. And we were cruising down this trail the day before and launching off this like kind of wind lippy thing. And it was the best, like clean landing as far as you could jump, you know what I mean? And then the next day we took that same trail first run and I just got too psyched and I went off it without looking, and the wind lip on the other side had totally changed the landing to where it was like uphill. And I basically like went, I don't know how fast, 50 miles an hour, like it felt like maybe 60, who knows. And just jumped off this thing and then basically smashed into this wall of like icy snow with my whole left side hip first, because I saw it coming and I kind of braced like that. And instantly I knew something was wrong. And I wasn't paralyzed, but I was in a lot of pain right away. And pain like I had never felt before. And, got off the mountain that day, had friends drive me home, and like literally spent the next couple months just in a lot of pain, not really able to do anything. And, I went to the doctor, and this is how stupid I was as a young man. So I hope there's some lessons to be learned here. But I went to the doctor and they were like, how'd you do this? And I was like, well, I heard it at work testing snowboard boots. And they looked at me like, what the fuck are you talking about? And they're like, you heard it at work? And I was like, yes, I was working. I was being paid that day. And they were like, well, that's a whole different setup, dude. That's workers' comp. You can't be here right now. And I'm like, I'm in pain. Fix me, dude. Like, I'm hurting right now. Fix me. Right. And just so I could get help faster, I decided not to go the workers' comp route, but figured out that 6 of my discs were pretty much blown. And they were like, yeah, and your other discs don't look so good either. You have degenerative disc disease. The structure of your discs is deteriorating. You have a back. They were basically, I'm 32. They were like, you have a back of a 75-year-old. And that was like reality. That was like the darkest day. like heavy, because I realized then that it's not going to be the same anymore. And I tried to snowboard for a few years after that, and I couldn't make a run. I couldn't make it down one run without stopping and like really being in pain in the middle of the mountain and being like, how am I going to get down? I tried for a few years and then just had to give up. And it was during this time that like I started to realize like how all that was changing. And like I just told my wife, I'm fucking buying a 911. You know, I was like, I got to make it happen. And I just wanted to like learn how to drive so I could feel like I was snowboarding. And there's a couple ways I did that, right? The first thing I did was I bought myself a sim rig. You don't see the whole thing, but there's one sitting right here. It's way sicker than the one I got back then, because I really fell in love with that too. Because I wanted to be able to drive as fast as I could snowboard. And I knew if I'm driving an old car without all the aids, like I really better know what I'm doing. So I sunk myself into like just getting sim laps in, because I could get myself a comfortable chair that I was comfortable enough in and not be in pain doing that. And so like between like sim racing and then buying a car and working on it, like that's really, I think, what saved my life. And where the car passion comes from, it comes from very young. Like I'm one of those dudes, like my parents tell me that my first words were car companies and like pointing out the cars, right? Like Subaru, like stuff as dumb as that. You know what I mean? Like I was like, those were some of the first words that I learned, because I was just always obsessed with cars. And, you know, as a kid, loved cars. And then when I was 12, or 11, my dad bought me a go-kart. That was the fucking sickest Christmas ever.
No kidding.
Walking down and seeing a go-kart in your living room
No
that
kidding.
my dad basically had to take it apart to get it back outside. You know what I mean? But, dude, I drove the wheels off that thing. I rolled it so many times, the roll bar snapped off. Like that's really my first driving lessons were on that. And then, you know, this whole back injury thing, it sent me down to be like, I'm going to figure this out. You know, I have 40,000 miles on this new game now. Like I can't imagine what I put on back then. I probably have 40 to 50,000 miles on every Gran Turismo that's come out on a wheel, just because I love driving that much.
Did you know you were going to love it that much? Were you like, I see myself doing this, or was it like a discovery process?
I think like it's a discovery process, and it maybe isn't, because I don't know. I didn't know if I would love it that much, but it was just like, it was all I had, right? Like, it's like, how can I feel like I'm going this fast and like carving an edge, and without using really my body anymore, but using a tool to do it.
You were pretty desperate to find something, it sounds like.
Yeah, dude. I mean, when you spend that much time in bed in pain, there were days that I did not think I could do it anymore. Like really, I don't talk about it with people because like it was that dark for me, but I know there's probably people that will listen to this that have a similar feeling or know a similar feeling. I still have bad pain days. Like today, my back is not doing so good. I worked on the car the last 2 days. That's my fault, but that's what I like to do. So I get through it, but, yeah, like there were days where I was just like, this isn't worth it anymore. Yeah, I have kids and a family, and that's how much pain can affect you, where you just don't see the light. There is light, but you don't see it. And that's what you always got to keep in mind if you're in that place, is there is light, right? Because pain can be temporary, can be permanent, but it can be temporary too. Yeah, I mean, I still struggle with it every day. I'm not a perfect man. You know, like one of the biggest things I think I noticed about pain, and I think I wanted to talk to you about, because I thought about this subject because I knew it would be a subject. You know, one of the things I noticed about pain that I noticed about the way I act when I'm in pain is it shortens my fuse. generally I'm a pretty happy, jovial dude. And the way I saw pain affect me, I think, until I realized like how, like when I wasn't in pain anymore, after I had some back surgeries and I felt that first day where I didn't have it, I think I realized like, holy smokes, like I'm a different guy when I'm not hurting. And that's something to keep in mind as a person. When you're in pain, it's not always easy, but like there are relationships I've damaged in my life that are probably only damaged because I was in pain that day and I fucking just lost my shit on something that I shouldn't have. That's a little deal, you know? That was a big deal to me because it was the only outlet I had to like express how bad I was feeling. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
like,
it's a relief valve. I mean, you have to, you know, it's sad, but you
yeah,
have to. I mean, I dealt with my wife just had spine surgery, and she's listening to this right now, and I can tell you, man, she was a complete bitch many times, you know, and I sometimes I dealt with it okay, sometimes I didn't, you know, but
that's real. Laura, my wife, I mean, thank her every day for being with me through that time. Cause you know, I don't, you and I, like, maybe she doesn't know it either, but she probably doesn't even know the levels to which you were affected by some of those things. And, yeah, I mean, I could sympathize with that 100%. I just know how bad it can feel. And I know how bad I felt when I realized like, oh, I just yelled at my kid because he spilt some ice cream. Like, who fucking cares? Like,
yeah.
Why did I do that? You know? And those are lessons you got to learn when you're in pain, because if you keep doing it, you're just going to drive the people you love away. So like, you know, pain is like one of those things. It can be a spiral, and that's the worst thing about it is it can just really take you down to a place you don't want to be and never intended to be, but it's happening to you. Yeah, it sucks. Pain.
Well, I'm glad
sucks,
you found
dude.
I'm glad you found the car. I'm glad you found,
yeah,
you know,
me too,
donuts
dude.
and drip.
I fucking love that thing.
You know, I'm glad it seems like that has become such a huge part of who you are now. That event, and I don't understand I don't understand the Simpsons thing. I'm hoping you can explain that to me too. You know, like what how does this all come together with the car and the donuts and drip and everything else? Was it just kind of like your way to tell another story?
Kind of. It was like, you know, so Donuts and Drip kind of formed towards the end of my tenure at Nike, where I just wasn't interested in shoes anymore. I just needed something new to do. And, you know, there's a whole story about Donuts and Drip too. That's a weird story, but really it was started because it was during the pandemic and
I got time for you,
weren't
man.
allowed to
You want to tell the long version? I'm here. Whatever you want.
Well, it started during like the pandemic, and we weren't supposed to hang out with each other. You weren't supposed to see your homies, you know? Some of the homies, we used to get together and go to Portland Cars and Coffee. And that used to be a cool thing. And then it became very much not a cool thing. Those guys are they want to sue everybody. They want to put rules on everything. And yeah, we all know no burnouts, dude. You don't have to fucking say it.
Right.
If somebody does a burnout, kick them out. Like, you don't have to make a big deal about it. You don't have to have your Facebook group all like 100 likes on the guy that did a burnout and we kicked him out, you know, like acting like cops and acting like Karens, really. Like, let's be honest.
I feel like that kind of attitude around that stuff almost fertilizes for more of it. You know what I mean?
Right?
It almost just it becomes like this is where you do that, obviously.
Yeah. And, you know, Portland Cars and Coffee used to be at this World of Speed car museum. That was kind of cool, right? And before that, it was kind of in a little bit of a scenic parking lot, kind of near this Starbucks or whatever. But the building backdrop was cool. It had cool, like, kind of greenish reflective windows. You can get a good photo. But now it's in like just like subdivision parking lot thing. You know, they don't care about the backdrop.
Yeah, it's
like
the only place that'll let them do it anymore. Honestly, it's pretty much what it comes down to.
And so Donuts and Drip, we started out at like this cool ass graffiti lot in Portland. Just cool ass backdrops, like graffiti being freshly painted, maybe even while you're there, you know? And it's a old electric building that burnt down, and they converted it to like a nice office building with a cool parking lot with this burnt down structure still there. And we had a few of the first drips there, and they started growing. Like, and part of the attraction to it was like, I didn't want it to be cars and coffee. It was more just like, it was supposed to be more fun than that. So I thought donuts were more fun than coffee. You know, visually they're a little bit more fun.
Sure.
And then the drip thing is just like kind of making fun of young people and style.
Yeah.
Like, it's a joke, dude. Like, it's not supposed to be serious. Like, my kids come home like, check out this
Dude,
drip.
I'm an idiot. I thought it was always donuts and drip, like it was the drip coffee. That's how dumb I am.
Well, so that's a nice double entendre for it, isn't
Yeah.
it? But really, it's about, like, Portland's has a really cool underground car scene. We're also known for having a donut shop every fucking block, and everybody who works in the sneaker industry works here. So it's like, it kind of like just all fits right into donuts and drip. It was like a name that meant a million things. And like, I don't care how you take it. Like, is it donuts and coffee to you? Cool. Is it donuts and sneakers and cool clothing to you? That's even cooler, I guess, because you kind of started to get me. I don't know. But, you know, I want people to take from it what they want.
Maybe that's what's the best part about the and part. Donuts and. It's and then
yeah,
the and is the best part of it.
Yeah. And, you know, like, to me, it's set up to be the anti cars and coffee. You know what I mean? Let's have a little fun. I want the weird shit to show up. It doesn't have to be a polished car. We want crazy. We want right-hand drive. We want your custom paint job. We want, you know, high school kids. If a high school kid shows up with a car, I'm posting it. If a girl shows up with a car, I'm posting it. Like, anybody outside that normal white guy scene, I'm helping them out. Like, that's a lot of what Donuts and Drip was about, was, hey, there's a lot of cool cars in Portland. We're not all rich whiteys. There's some flavor in this town too, you know? And it just started getting weird, you know, like, cars show up, I take a photo, I draw donuts on the wheels, I post it. It's all about everybody else. I'm trying to, like, get people noticed through my own little platform, and, like, say, hey, like, you know, maybe somebody who doesn't know that, oh, that's another Suzuki Cappuccino guy. Holy shit. Like, and then those guys can get together and hang out, you know?
Oh my God, there's two of us.
Yeah. You know, and there's donuts on it, and there's crazy animations coming out. And there's, you know, like, cause like on the stories, I put GIFs and music, and, like, you know, it's all just to be
It's freaking fun, man.
It's all really just to have a laugh.
It's fun.
It's all really to have a laugh and, you know, big up the Portland culture of just being a weirdo.
Where did the Simpsons thing come from?
Well, I mean, I've always loved the Simpsons, and I have a large, you know, bootleg Simpsons t-shirt collection, and Matt Groening is from here.
What do you mean bootleg t-shirt collection?
Like old Simpsons shirts that were not licensed Simpsons shirts. You know what I mean? Like, that's a whole genre of style. Get into that one. You'll find some really, like, cool old.
I can see why your wife
like, a lot
said,
of them
get
are
this
not
shit out of
appropriate
here.
for. Yeah. So I'm a collector, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have a lot of, like, that old weird
Yep.
shit. But so Matt Groening's from here, and the Simpsons, that runs pretty. That's where all the character names are from. Portland streets, Flanders Street. You know, like, it's all based on things from around here. And not to mention that, but, like, when you're talking about donuts, there's not a better character in the world to pair that with than Homer Simpson.
True. Dude, I feel bad.
I
I
mean,
took you to, our buddy Jeff ruined it, first of all, but I was trying to take you to this little, like, place over in Utah where all the streets were named after Simpsons characters. And then Jeff told you that's what we were doing. So that I didn't get to surprise you, but it doesn't even matter because then we went over there was 0 street signs, but everywhere.
I know, but
so
you know,
bummed, man.
I still felt the vibe, and there was the basketball court there that was super sick. You know, I'm just here for the experience when it comes to Overcrest, dude. Like, I really just, I just wanted to hang out with you guys. We could have gone nowhere and I probably would have been happy.
Yeah, but that's not how it could work either, though. And you can't go nowhere.
Yeah, I know.
It's you say that, but
No,
it's
you
got
gotta
to
go
be
somewhere.
I don't know. It's almost an inexplicable thing now. It's different for you than it is for me, obviously, as part of the organizational crew.
Yes.
So I have this different experience, and this isn't a bad thing, and I'm not complaining, but everybody has this experience that is this arch, right? They have this, they get there, they have the experience that they have, and it's like a very long climax, right? They have this whole arching experience, whereas I get to have like these 5 to 10 minute, really, really, really intense interactions with people. I don't get to have like this relationship with, 2 or 3 other people and have this whole storyline of my car broke down and I did all this stuff and whatever. It's completely different. So I'm really, really envious of someone like you or others that get to have the amazing experience that everybody keeps telling me that they're having. I mean, I completely believe you that you had it, but I can't relate, man. I can't relate. I understand. Like so my goal for like putting the rally on when I scout and stuff like that is I want you, Steve, to have a similar experience to me that I have when I'm scouting, of discovery, of fear, of risk. It's hard. You sweat your nuts off sometimes, but it feels really good at the end. So I guess I get the experience I'm looking for when I'm scouting, but yeah, I don't necessarily get the same experience that you get when you're there.
No, that's because you're working, dude. Like, like I've been lucky enough, like, so I've thought about this a lot too. I've been lucky enough in my life where I worked a lot in my passion. It's the snowboarding thing, right? But there's baggage that comes with that because you're never allowed to shut off. And Overcrest, at least for me, that's like true like shut off time. I didn't think about an email. I didn't think about a phone call. I didn't think about anything but the rally on those days. Or my car not starting or whatever else, hitting a bird and watching it explode. I was caught in these moments in time versus like you're thinking about the asshole that misbehaved, or you're thinking about more organizational things, like whereas the rest of us are on the ride that you're providing, and that's a whole different perspective. And I think a lot of us attendees really like you probably hear it, but deeply, deeply appreciate the effort you guys put in, not only to like finding the routes for us, but those experiences you provide, the places you find. It's a special thing that not everybody can put it together the way that you three have put this thing together. And I say you three as like the three names.
Three amigos
on Overcrest Productions, but we know, and I think, I made a post about this too, that it takes a village. It's not just the three of you putting efforts in here. There's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes, whether it be from sponsors, whether it be from attendees and volunteers. I think I can speak for everybody on the rally that we appreciate all of those people and every effort put in to make what happened just happen, because it was special.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, it is a village. There's so much to it, and all the volunteers, like, and it's strange how like, the shit will go down, and for some reason over the course of like 5 or 6 years, we've gotten better and better at like the logistics of things, but there's always these weird problems that come up that could just like derail things, right? They could derail things completely, but they always seem to just kind of sort themselves out. Someone shows up to help, or there's like some random person is there with the answer. And it's just kind of wild how this, like these serendipitous things have always happened. And I think it's just being surrounded by good people.
I think you're right, dude. Like that's really, I think hitting the nail on the head, just because, I think it's the way a lot of my life has worked too. Maybe I was in the right place at the right time, but there were people that either saw promise or provided help or, I think Overcrest with the people you've put together and the event that you put together, you really have something special. And all I want to do is more of it. I came back to my life and I'm just like, I told my wife, I'm like, you know what? I'd be a pretty happy guy is all I had to do is get in my car and drive on cool roads with cool people like that. But this was last week when I was like ready to get back with my normal life, with my job, sitting in this office, talking on Teams all day. Definitely doesn't bring the same fulfilling feeling as getting out there in the middle of nowhere.
Well, for sure, but you can't have your favorite food every day.
Other people, yeah, it's true because then it's not as special,
Yep.
right? Though I do think I could eat pizza every day. I do really think that.
When I met my wife, she didn't like pizza. It was a huge problem, dude. It was a big problem.
I mean, like deep dish in the Midwest?
No,
or
dude,
like
deep
what?
dish pizza is
Like
disgusting. Don't pair us up with that. That's Chicago, man. That's 7 hours away from here. I don't want any part of that. Deep dish pizza is disgusting. That's like, no, that's barely pizza. That's like,
I think,
else.
dude, I mean, so I won't say it's disgusting.
Oh.
I think anytime you put bread, sauce, and cheese together, you have a combination for success. It's just not.
Okay, maybe disgusting wasn't the
pizza
right
that I
word,
wanna eat.
but let me just say
Yeah.
it's not pizza. And this is like, this goes into this.
Right, it's pie.
It is. It's like, it's
something
lasagna
else.
is what it is. It's circle lasagna.
Yeah, totally, dude. Totally.
Dude, thanks for coming on the podcast to hang out, man. This was a good time. That was a good idea. And
Thank you for
I'm
having
glad
me.
you were here. And I learned a ton of shit about shoes. And now I want to I have this habit right here, dude. This habit, I have like 75 pairs of these. And I feel like I'm missing out on some diversity with stuff like this. The problem is I like buying cool shit, and sometimes the cool shit's expensive. Like I'm seeing the shoes you're showing me and I'm like, oh, I really want a pair of those. And I'm looking them up as you talk to me and I'm like, no, it's never going to fucking happen. That's not possible.
I mean, dude, that game is like so ridiculous. I mean, I don't even understand the thought process behind paying like more than $200 for a pair of shoes. Like,
Yeah, well, maybe we'll get there someday.
it's just insane to me. It's just insane to me, dude. It's shoes. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think you look good in Chucks though, dude. It fits your vibe. It goes good with the denim you wear. Why change that up?
Jeff is always challenging me to change things up. He's always pushing me to change things up.
I mean, you could wear open-toed Birkenstocks everywhere you go.
In hell. All right, man. Take care of yourself.
All right. We'll see you,
Peace.
dude. Thank you for having me. See ya.